In June of 2023, my partner quit her full-time job and career in B2B tech to become a full-time content creator. And just over a year later, she is making 5 figures per month and is making more than she has ever made in her B2B tech career. What's up everyone, this is Brandon from Wealth Potion here, and as many of you know, I followed in her footsteps. Just a few months ago, I quit my job, I left my career in B2B tech, and I started Wealth Potion. And I am going all in on the creator economy. A big part of that was being able to watch and follow my partner's journey in becoming a full-time content creator. So today's video is all about that. It is about the creator economy. And it's about specifically why I'm so bullish on the creator economy, why I think we are just in the early innings of the creator economy, and why I think content creation is really the future. So without further ado, let's dive in. In short, there are 4 main reasons why I think the creator economy is going to change business, careers, lifestyle, and so much more. First and foremost, the marketing landscape, specifically advertising, is changing. Secondly, the cost of producing content is decreasing and it's approaching zero. Thirdly, people all around the world are losing trust in centralized institutions. And last but certainly not least, the 9-to-5 trade-off that we've all been sold is getting worse and worse. So let's dive into the first reason, which is the marketing and advertising landscape. I've worked at a variety of startups across a variety of sales and marketing roles, and I watched over the past 10 years as advertising shifted. But if we zoom out even before that, right, I'm a millennial. When I was growing up, most of advertising was TV commercials, billboards, traditional old school advertising. And as we got into the 2010s, 2020s, social media really started to pick up. And when you look at large businesses today, especially technology businesses, but really all businesses, a lot of their advertising revenue is spent towards Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, the big tech platforms that dominate the stock market. Without going down that rabbit hole too far, what's important to note is that these big tech companies, their primary revenue source is advertising. They make money when businesses pay to put their ads on their platforms. However, this is shifting, and again, I noticed this over the past 10 years where, one year Facebook would really be overperforming, and then it would be LinkedIn, and then it would be Google, and one year we even tried Bing. Like, there's so many different platforms and they're constantly evolving, but really it's like a game of whack-a-mole. You're just trying to get the best bang for your marketing dollar. And there's a new game in town, and in my opinion, just like traditional old school advertising, like billboards and TV commercials, was disrupted by big tech, we are now seeing a new trend, which is moving towards content creators and influencers. Here's just one data point to show what I'm talking about here. If you look at the volume of Google searches for influencer marketing, which is essentially what I'm referring to, paying influencers or content creators to advertise a product, it has skyrocketed over the past 10 years, and it's continuing to increase. Again, I think this trend is going to continue. And there's a reason this is happening. Consumers and people in general, they want to buy from people. We are constantly bombarded with advertising on our phones, when we walk outside, and it is oversaturating our attention spans. Companies are starting to realize this. When you actually look at the most effective ad formats, for example, they usually emulate a note on your iPhone or a text message conversation. This is all in an effort to emulate and make you feel like it's a person selling to you, not Coca-Cola or Facebook or some big massive corporation. And I share this example just to show that this trend has been going on for a long time and will continue. People want to buy from people, and what better way to facilitate that than to advertise through influencers or content creators. So that's reason number 1. More and more trust is moving away from companies and towards influencers, and because of that, influencer marketing is growing like hotcakes. The second reason is that the cost of producing content is approaching zero. What do I mean by that? Well, I imagine you have an iPhone or an Android phone. If that is the case, then you could create content today. So many YouTube creators, Instagram, TikTok creators, etc., They do not have fancy audio equipment or lighting or a nice camera. They are recording from their mobile device, especially TikTok. If you use TikTok, you know exactly what I'm talking about, because the videos that go most viral on TikTok tend to be the most raw, organic content. It literally looks like someone just woke up, got out of bed, pulled out their phone, and started talking. And again, this goes back to my earlier point that people want to buy from people. They want genuine content, not something that's really edited and really polished. But more than that is that you could create that content too, as long as you have a smartphone. And because of that, the volume of content out there is only going to increase, and therefore the volume of content creators is only going to increase. And as more and more content creators join the creator economy, it's only going to create a flywheel. More and more businesses are going to support creators, and quite honestly, I think that's why it's being referred to as the creator economy. It is literally a new form of economy that is growing. The third reason is trust in centralized institutions. Now, I don't want to get this video flagged. I'm not going to go into the events over the past several years where a lot of things happened and a lot of people don't trust large institutions anymore. But I will share this data point, which is survey data that just shows what I'm talking about. Trust in centralized institutions, at least in America, is declining. Now, this data is specifically referring to media. So you might argue that, oh, this is an anomaly. The mainstream media has very specific problems that it is dealing with that other institutions do not. I would argue that this is a trend that is really affecting all centralized institutions. Trust in government is reaching all-time lows in many countries around the world, many democratic and developed nations, by the way. Universities and colleges, as I've mentioned before, the cost of tuition is rising much faster than inflation, almost 3 times faster than inflation. And so trust in universities and colleges is declining. There are many centralized institutions that have existed for decades, if not centuries, that the people are losing trust in. And again, this goes back to my first point. People want to buy from people. They don't want to buy from a large corporation that doesn't know their name. So what's the moral of this story? Well, as trust in centralized institutions declines, that trust is going to have to go somewhere else. It's creating a vacuum that will be filled. And in my opinion, it's going to be filled by individual content creators. You might already notice this yourself. Perhaps you're getting your news from a TikTok or YouTube channel that you really like, or a podcast that you listen to. These are all examples of these hegemonic central institutions that are becoming fragmented and breaking off into smaller, more independent voices. And I think that's a very good thing, and it is further proof that the creator economy is just getting started. The other thing I'll add in this point is that AI is going to supercharge this trend where the cost of production is going to zero, but as many content creators watching this will know, it still is fairly time consuming to do all the editing and storyboarding and writing of scripts. AI tools are making that a lot easier. And also the cost of these tools are approaching zero. And so I love this clip from the All In podcast. They're basically talking about this idea of AI agents and some of the ramifications this could create. And Friedberg puts it really nicely. I'll include the clip really quickly.
Think about old school photographers doing black and white photography with pinhole cameras, and then they come across Adobe Photoshop. What they can do with Adobe Photoshop was stuff that they could never conceptualize of in those old days. I think what's going to happen for creators going forward, and this is going back to that point that we had last week or 2 weeks ago about the guy that was like, hey, I'm out of a job. I actually think that the opportunity for creating new stuff in new ways is so profoundly expanding that individuals can now write entire universes that can then be enjoyed by millions of people from completely different lengths and viewpoints and models. They can be interactive, they can be static, they can be dynamic, and that the tooling that you personalized, but the tooling that you as a creator now have, you could choose which characters you want to define, you could choose which content you want to write, you could choose which content you want the AI to fill in for you, and say, hey, create 50 other characters in the village, and then when the viewer reads the book or watches the movie, let them explore or have a different interaction with a set of those villagers in that village. Or you could say, hey, here's the one character everyone has to meet, here's what I want them to say, and you can define the dialogue. And so the way that creators can start to kind of harness their creative chops and create new kinds of modalities for content and for exploration, I think is going to be so beautiful and incredible.
I love that analogy he uses. If you think of photographers and artists before Photoshop existed, there were things that were made possible by Photoshop that photographers could not even fathom before Photoshop existed. And I agree with David that AI is going to be the exact same thing. It's going to create things that you and I, we couldn't even imagine as being possible. And interestingly enough, they try to predict some of those things. It doesn't really matter what those specific things are. What's important is that content creation is going to get exponentially easier, and there are going to be new forms of content creation that we don't even fathom. Now, last but certainly not least, I want to talk about what I call the 9-to-5 trade-off. This is a topic I'm going to be talking about more in the future, so if it's interesting to you, hit the subscribe button. But the 9-to-5 trade-off is essentially the deal that we've been provided by having a full-time job and career. And I refer to it as a trade-off because we are providing our time, and when you really think about it, we're really providing 40 to 50 years, the most productive years of our lives, to a company or multiple companies, assuming we're jumping around from job to job. But the trade-off is that in return, we would get a livable wage, we would get career progression and growth and a sense of, community and meaning at our work. And that trade-off has been changing. If you look at our parents' generation, as mentioned, I'm a millennial. If we look at the boomers or even before that to the quiet generation, that trade-off was a great deal. You worked for 40 years and you got a very comfortable life. You were able to afford a home, you could afford kids, and it was worth it. Perhaps most importantly is you could support a family and own a home on a single income. That trade-off no longer exists. And we'll dive into why that has happened in future videos. The short answer is it's not a simple question. There's a lot of reasons why this has happened, but the outcome is the outcome. We cannot deny the facts that it is more expensive to own a home, it is more difficult to start a family, birth rates across the world are declining, and a lot of this has to do with that 9-to-5 trade-off. And because of that, in my opinion, it is only going to push more and more people to find alternative solutions. And that might not necessarily be the creator economy. It might mean becoming a contractor or looking for multiple part-time jobs. It might be working in the gig economy. It might be starting your own business. There are a lot of different alternatives, but we cannot deny that the creator economy is a serious alternative, and it's proving itself to be not only an option, but a superior option for many people. Again, this is only my opinion, but I believe that the creator economy is going to become a better and better option as the 9-to-5 trade-off gets worse and worse. There you have it. Those are the 4 main reasons why I'm extremely bullish on the creator economy. To be clear, I am just getting started on my journey. I still am figuring out as I go. I am just as new as many creators on this platform or on other platforms. And I'm sharing this with you today so that, one, you understand my perspective and you see why I'm going all in on Wealth Potion. But perhaps more than that, I feel like I was lucky in that I got to follow along my partner's journey for the past year. I got to see the trials and tribulations she went through. I got to see her wins and her failures and the things that she tried. And being able to follow that, to watch along as she built her new career in this new creator economy was incredibly inspiring. And it was so inspiring that I'm doing it myself. And that was one of the components I wanted to work into Wealth Potion. If you're subscribed to the Wealth Potion newsletter, you know that every week at the end of the newsletter, I include a Build in Public update where I share transparently what's going on with the Wealth Potion channel, the things that I'm trying, the things that I'm failing at, the ideas that I have, the metrics that I've hit. I have follower goals and I'll soon have revenue goals. I'm sharing all of that transparently so that hopefully you, if you are interested in becoming a creator, you can actually see what it's like from the inside. Because again, I was lucky in that I got to experience that through my partner, but not everyone is that lucky. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can check out the newsletter at wealthpotion.com. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you next time.